Hello and welcome to the Sportsbet.io Champions League podcast for this next round of Champions League fixtures. Don't forget to take a look at the Clubhouse TV YouTube channel for all of our videos on a weekly basis. I'm joined, as I was last time, by our good friend Daniele Fisichella. We're going to take a look at this next round of Champions League fixtures, and this is where, Daniele, it starts to get a little bit interesting because you've got teams who are probably comfortable, who might start taking their foot off the gas. You've got teams who've got to throw everything at it, and you've got the teams that perhaps now just give up a bit. This is a really interesting week of fixtures, I think.
Yes, it is a Matchday 6, and that's where really the new format comes into the fore, because before we only had 5 match days and it all seemed a bit like the old Champions League. But now with the Matchday 6, nothing is going to be decided right now, and there are 2 extra games, of course, in January. But, you know, the statisticians around the world have been busy, and they told us that 11 points all but guarantee you to be in the playoffs. So we know there are already 5 or 6 teams that are in the playoffs, but of course the likes of Liverpool, Inter want to push for that top 8 finish. But 11 more teams can reach the threshold in this match day, but that doesn't mean that other teams are going to be automatically eliminated, because until you got 6-7 points available, you can still make it. So really, there is all to play for, and that's where we're going to learn if this new Champions League format is much more exciting than what it used to be.
Absolutely. I mean, Celtic is where we will start as they travel to Dinamo Zagreb. Celtic just 3 points off that 11 number at the moment. They've so far got 8 in the competition. This is really interesting for a number of reasons. But Dinamo Zagreb are in a bit of freefall. They issued an official statement this week saying we're in crisis. We've got injury problems, but this is officially a crisis. They actually use that term, which is a strange thing for a club to do when you're in crisis. Look, Celtic haven't been spectacular. They've been solid. But I was looking at the prices for this. I was looking at the expectation for this. And I thought that Celtic were a really, really good team to support here.
They are, because they are in a great moment. +9 at home domestically on Aberdeen with a game in hand. So potentially they got the title wrapped up. Yeah. And Brendan Rodgers is doing well. He's making full use of his squad, dropping a couple of players the weekend. Kartavikas, Kyogo on the bench against Hibs. They still won. Wasn't easy, wasn't all comfortable. A couple of good saves from Schmeichel. But, you know, this season, Celtic have only lost once against Dortmund. And in that game, I think the score line was a little bit deceiving, really. Dortmund pretty much scored with every single chance they had. And back in Scotland, the debate is this Celtic side better than invincible treble of 2016, 2017, again with Rodgers? They got a good structure here. Yeah. Maeda, Kuhn, a good spine, McGregor, Kartavikas, Hatate. So I think this Celtic side has got every single chance to qualify for the top 24, and I wouldn't discard them really to go into the round of 16.
No, which is obviously, like you were saying earlier on, how this new system, this new league table works. Celtic could well actually end up being big beneficiaries of kind of being able to creep in, bad phrase, but around the back door, around the back, trying to sort of sneak in at the last. And Dinamo Zagreb, as we mentioned, a lot of injuries. They lost the game again, a lot of draws. They're just a side who normally you can't discount completely, but I think here you can.
2 away wins in the Champions League, and against Dortmund, they lost 3-0. They didn't create much. An XG of only 0.14. Yeah. Only Slovan Bratislava had a lowest XG, 0.1, in the home game against Manchester City. So really, they didn't offer much up front. Third in the Croatian League, lost to Hajduk Split a couple of weeks ago, winless in 5 games. Yes, they are in crisis, but then spare a thought for the teams that got 0 points in the Champions League. Dinamo Zagreb actually, again, have a realistic chance to get maybe to 8 points and perhaps qualify. Is all very complicated. I think it's going to go down to the wire. A point here probably makes both happy, because Dinamo Zagreb maybe stops the rot with a point.
Yeah, I'm going to go strongly with Celtic there. I think they've got a great chance in that game. A team who really are struggling and are in half a chance, I suppose, of just about qualifying is, let me just double check my notes here, Real Madrid, who are 24th.
Never heard of them.
No, never heard of them. And they're 24th, 6 points in this Champions League so far in what's been a bizarre season on and off the field for Real Madrid. And this is not an easy game either, because they travel to Atalanta, who, of course, won in Europe, a big tournament last year, are brilliant this season in Serie A, despite losing a number of very key players. They've just replaced them with better ones or as good ones. Yeah. Gasperini continues to make brilliant tactical decisions. Atalanta are 5th in this Champions League table. They're chasing the Serie A, they're chasing the Scudetto. I can't believe I'm saying this as strongly as I am, but I'm convinced that Atalanta easily beat Real Madrid here.
I'm not sure about the easily, but I don't understand why the odds make Real Madrid so favorite, really. And I had a look at some of the average odds, and they are very high. They are perhaps even lower though than the last time Real Madrid came in town and beat them 1-0, and it was a hard-fought win thanks to a Ferland Mendy goal. Look, Atalanta won 9 games in a row. They equaled the record. They are top in Serie A for the first time after 15 games. And the last 2 games, they show a different facet of Atalanta. Yeah. They deserve to win against both Roma and Milan, but they won ugly. Against Roma, it was a very sticky game. Had it not been for that shot deflected by Celtic, probably Atalanta couldn't get the win at the Olimpico. Against Milan, 2 goals from set pieces, but scored in the very few minutes. And I think that's where Atalanta have shown the great maturity and the great strengths. It's been given by winning the UEFA Europa League last season. They go until the end. They don't have that dip in form. And you have to praise the man at the helm, Giampiero Gasperini, 8 years in charge of Atalanta. I don't think it's a coincidence. The 2 top teams in Serie A and the 2 top Italian teams in the Champions League have been the one with the manager who's been there the most. 8 years Gasperini, 4 years for Inzaghi at Inter. We're going to talk about Inter in a minute. But then Gasperini is very smart, because what does he do against Napoli and against Milan, the 2 top sides? Leaves the top goal scorer, Retegui, out. Okay, and he places Pasalic, the Catelere, who rewards him with a goal and assist, and he manages to drag Milan defenders out of position. 37% of Atalanta actions in this Champions League have taken place in the opposition third, which makes them the third most attacking teams behind Manchester City and Bayern Munich. Carlo Ancelotti, you've been warned.
Yeah, absolutely. And Atalanta you mentioned Retegui there, well into double figures in Serie A. If you're looking for a goal scorer, Retegui, if he starts, which obviously Gasperini's been moving around a lot, it is always worth a look. And of course, Gasperini outthought Klopp last season. He outthought Xabi Alonso and the seemingly unbeatable Bayer Leverkusen as well. So that is a guy who, later on in his career, is starting to finally get a little bit of extra joy, which is nice to see, I think.
I think it's the perfect environment for him, Gasperini. Bergamo, he had a difficult spell at Inter 10 years ago, lasted only 3 days. He's got given the time at Atalanta. The beginning of his career at Atalanta wasn't easy. First few games he lost them, going back 9 years. They didn't sack him, they stuck with him, and they back him a lot in the transfer market this season. Look, back in August, Real Madrid won 2-0 against Atalanta in the Super Cup. But I think that one is deceiving. Atalanta had a lot of issues there, had a lot of players coming and going, a difficult situation with Coop Miners, was on the way out to Juventus, hit the woodwork twice in that game in the Super Cup, Atalanta. So don't take that to face value. No. And I think with Real Madrid, the bookies always overestimate them. I think this time they only have a 2.9% chance of finishing the top 8 based to statistical calculation. Yet they are the third favorites to win the trophy. There must be a glitch there, okay? I can't work it out. But it is a real struggle for Real Madrid this season. Only have scored once in the first half of the Champions League. So they share this very bad record with Sturm Graz, Salzburg, and PSG. And they face 63 shots in the competition so far. So they are 15 Real Madrid for shots faced in the Champions League. Remember the first game against Stuttgart? They didn't deserve to win that one. Atalanta, by the way, only faced 35 shots. So that tells you who's the real attacking side, who's the real attacking threat, and who should be wearing who.
That's incredible. And it's also a very strange sentence hearing they're at the bottom with Salzburg, with Sturm Graz, and PSG. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, PSG tells the story.
We've mentioned both of these next 2 sides in the last few moments by Leverkusen and Inter Milan. Listen, Inter, I think it's hard to say having a bad season, but I think a few people, including myself, thought they would be much more dominant than they have been to this point. Not that they're playing horrendously, but still. Çalhanoğlu likely to be back this week, and that's obviously a very key thing against his former side as well, which is a heck of a story if you're backing a player to score. But Bayer Leverkusen, after a sticky spell, have started to improve again. Is it too early to say that Lever are back? And in what looks like a brilliant game, how do we approach this?
But this is going to be a very open one. Champions of Germany against champions of Italy. None of them had a great start to the season. I think at the moment Inter are in a better form, though. They won 11 of the last 13. Only conceded 2 goals in the last 7 games. Against Parma, it was an own goal from Darmian when the game was already wrapped up. The nice things about Inter is they can get goals from all different sources. On Friday, of the starting 11, only Bastoni hadn't scored on that team, but he has contributed with few assists. Thuram, by the way, is already in double figure. So if from one side we are seeing that Lautaro Martinez dipping in form, Thuram's numbers are rising. He's got more goals at this stage of the season than last season. He plays in a more advanced position. He has developed a knack for finishing easy opportunities, also at the back post. But I think also the physical condition of Inter has improved. Maybe that was a strategy. They started the physical preparation a different way to make sure they had the best towards the tail end of this Champions League. They're running more. They're making more sacrifice runs for each other. Inter, by the way, are second favorites behind Liverpool to finish in the top 8, but only the 7th, according to the calculations, most likely to win the competition. Again, I think if you compare those chances with Real Madrid, there is something in there. Maybe there is an opportunity for bettors to back Inter to finish 8 or even win the league phase. I think there is a big contrast, by the way, between the Serie A form and the Champions League form. In Serie A, they scored 3 or more goals in 7 occasions already, Inter, whereas in the Champions League, every goal of Inter has been worth more than 2 points. They haven't scored many, apart from that game against Red Star. Under 2.5 goals. That's been a winning bet in 24 out of the last 26 Inter Champions League games. Masters of 1-0, masters of tight margins. So that could be an angle. But yeah, Bayern Leverkusen, when they hit the stride, they can be done. They only lost 2 home games, by the way, in all competitions since May 2023.
But it also, after you have not just the kind of season that they've had, the following that up is very, very difficult, isn't it? And you've got players who perhaps will say, well, I'll stay because we won the league last season, but some perhaps with half a foot already out the door. Xabi Alonso perhaps with half a foot out the door. It's a very difficult season to follow up. It wasn't just a title-winning season and a final of a European competition. It was going unbeaten. It was all of that as well. And then it's kind of hard to keep the momentum going. And we will keep the momentum going for this final game, which is Girona against Liverpool. Now, this game is one that I've kind of chosen because, firstly, obviously, Liverpool, the best team in Europe at this current point, didn't play at the weekend as well. Obviously, the Merseyside derby was postponed because there's been some pretty grim weather here in the UK. Girona are a very good team, and they're very good at home, but they're 30th in the table here. At what point does Girona look at this and say, do you know what, we can just keep chasing Europe in La Liga, let's just leave this be now, not get too stressed about it? Is this as simple as a heavy Liverpool win is kind of my main question.
I think in the dictionary, under the definition of winning without playing, there will be the picture of Liverpool this weekend. Because obviously they didn't play. They didn't even have to travel a mile because the game was at Goodison, and Manchester City and Arsenal dropped point, which of course Chelsea won. But that led me to believe that for Liverpool, this is going to be one of the easiest games they're going to have in Europe this season. They're fully rested. And at this time of the season, resting is key. I remember speaking a couple of times with players or former players and asking, how important is resting, having a day off, a day rest, a week off? They say it's massive. It's so important. We don't get any rest during the season. So anything you can give us is massive bonus. And I think they're going to be fired up. And also because Liverpool were coming up at the back of a difficult game against Newcastle. They were shaken, there were a few individual errors, especially in defense, a 3-3-0 draw. But the average odds for Liverpool to win here in Spain have never been as low as in the last 4 trips to Spain when they faced Atletico, Real Madrid twice, and Villarreal. And I think that tells the story. Girona have scored just 4 goals, an XG total of 6.7 in the Champions League. So there is a slightly underperformance there. But at the weekend, they were so easily beaten by Real Madrid that leads me to believe I don't think they can lay a glove on this Liverpool side.
Yeah, it could be 2, 3. I honestly think it could be an absolute destruction of Girona here because, like you say, a fresh Liverpool side. Girona probably not too bothered. Their focus likely to turn more to La Liga as well over the next few weeks. It's going to be an intriguing game, but I do think I'm with you on that one. I think a heavy Liverpool win. Daniele, thank you so much for your expertise on this Tuesday Champions League preview. Don't forget to stay on this Clubhouse TV channel to find the Wednesday version, which you can watch whenever you want. We're going to record right now. We will see you on that next preview as well.